Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, this right here is a serious implication, something that we need to understand at a finer detail. Chelsea FC Holding Limited have today announced its annual financial results for the year ending 30th June 2022. The club made an overall net loss of 121.3 million loss. All right. Here we go, back again on the other side of the coin. All right, welcome back to the other side of the coin, ladies and gentlemen. This is an interesting topic to talk about. I think we need to understand the implications. What does it mean? Are we going to spend? Are we going to cut costs? What happens if we don't make Europe altogether? Is it sustainable in the long run? There's a lot to think about here. Revenue, where's that coming from? We can now understand why, Todd Bowley, the new ownership, are so hell-bound in finding ways to make new revenue, and it's very, very important. Ladies and gentlemen, the financial report has been disclosed to the fan base by Chelsea Football Club, and it goes something like this. Chelsea FC Holdings Limited have today announced its annual financial results for the year ended 30th June 2022. The club made an overall net loss of 121.3 million. Predominantly, these losses are coming from the sanctions, the lack of match day revenue last season. So that's where it's stemming from. So hopefully that should change around, but we'll talk about that in more details. Despite the loss in the year, the club continued to comply with UEFA and Premier League financial regulations. So look, I'm no expert in this topic, but from what I gather, you cannot have 3 years worth of losses in a row. Now, I believe last season we made a loss, but the season before that as well, there was some losses due to the pandemic. No fans were allowed in the stadium. Last season, the fans finally came back. But as I said, the loss of 121.3 million was incurred right at the end when the sanctions happened, and we made a lot of, we lost a lot of revenue. So, look, as much as they're saying that right now we're complying with UEFA and Premier League financial regulations, next season, ladies and gentlemen, we're probably in course to potentially make another loss. Like, our owners have come in and splashed out a lot of money. Now, heaps of things to talk about here, right? Firstly, let's look at all the transfers. This is why Todd Bowley, the new ownership, the board, they've been trying to get all these players come through over the last 2 transfer windows and really utilizing that long-term contract to be able to amortize that particular fee in the accounting books over a long period of time. Now, there's a difference between profit and loss statement and cash flow statement. Cash flow is what money are you outlaying, what money are you giving out to whoever you need to give out. But profit and loss is a different style of, accounting. So this is why when we look at, let's say, for instance, Mudrik's 100 million, we might have given part of it right now, the money, and then later on we'll give some other installments, but that's cash flow. That's got to do with money just being transacted. But in the accounting terms, that 100 million can actually be amortized over the length of the contract of that particular player. So if the player's contract is about 7 years or 8 years, we can spread that particular expense out over that period of time. And that's from an accounting perspective, not from a cash flow transactional perspective, from an accounting perspective. This is why, we were pushing for those long-term contracts. This is why we're trying to push some of our current players, existing players, their contracts out in a long-term manner as well, so that we can reap benefits from that amortization. Obviously, the players that are from the academy, that's fine, but I guess there's running costs for those players as well, which potentially we can spread out too. But yeah, wages are different. They fall under the fixed category. So that's one side of the things. Moving forward, without potentially not having any European football, A lot of people have been saying, I'd rather not be in Europe next season. You may need to rethink that. The reason why Chelsea Football Club needs European football, whether it's Champions League, whether it's Europa League, whether it's Conference League, not because we are so desperate that we want to be in those competitions, more for the match day revenue. Not having any European football means there's that massive portion of that income that's not going to be available there. And the implications of that is all the costs that's going to incur next season. You're going to have to find ways to minimize that, because the revenue from not being in Europe is not going to be there. So if there's not enough revenue, how are you going to pay some of the expenses? This is why there's been talks about how certain players next season could potentially see, a bit of a wage cut not being in Europe. This is why we are getting rumors around that some of our academy players are potentially going to get sold, because selling those academy players, it's immediate profit. So once you sell, you realize that profit. So for example, Conor Gallagher, it costs us nothing to get Conor Gallagher because he comes from the academy. Once you sell Conor Gallagher, let's say for 45 million, that's 45 million directly into the accounting books. That doesn't need to be amortized. A profit doesn't get amortized, but you can amortize a purchase of a particular player over the length of the contract. But a sale, it's realized straight away, because that's money you can straight away put into the accounting books. And this is why I think it's going to be very, very important in the upcoming summer window. A lot of focus will be on sales. Players like Conor Gallagher, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount, I highly, highly doubt, because now with 121.3 million loss and potentially not having any European football next season, we're going to have to find ways to balance the books, because I don't think we can afford to make another loss next season. Under financial fair play, 3 years running loss, you will breach. You will absolutely breach. So for all the people that are thinking, it's okay, let's not worry about making the European competitions, think again. The results for the year have been impacted by sanctions placed on the club's previous owners on 10th March 2022. So this is what they're saying, that the 121.3 million is coming through, the loss. Chelsea face having to raise substantial amounts of cash by selling off players this summer to avoid breaching the Premier League's financial rules next year, after reporting large losses for a second successive season. The second successive season. I think when it's a third one, you're gonna now breach. And once you breach that, there could be potential point deduction, transfer bans, this, that, the other. This is why our owners are trying to redevelop the stadium, because we don't make enough for a big club like us. A 40,000 seat stadium is not enough. Someone like Spurs are making a lot more money than us just through match day sales. And that's not acceptable. That simply is not acceptable. Spurs are a laughingstock, yet they make more money than us. This is why our owners are trying their level best to redevelop the stadium. At least push it to about 60,000. This is why we're getting rumored that we'll potentially go to Fulham Stadium or West Ham Stadium or wherever else until Stamford Bridge is redeveloped. This is another reason why our owners are looking for new sponsorships as well. And all of these things have implications. If you don't do well, like this season, this is why we cannot have another season like this season, because it's not sustainable. It's simply not sustainable. You have to win. If you want to be rolling in the elite levels and you want to be attracting top quality players, you have to continue winning. You have to be in all competitions, because you have to pick up all of these revenue. This is what will help you keep on top. This season, 10th, not good enough. You're not going to get those level of sponsorships, those level of endorsements. No one wants to sponsor a Premier League club that's 10th. No one wants to sponsor a Premier League club, a club that's not in the Champions League or in Europe altogether. At the end of the day, sponsors need to get some benefit as well. If I sponsor you and you're not exposed to the elite levels, well, then why am I sponsoring you? All of these are important. So we simply cannot afford to have this level of season next season. This is more reasons, we have to think about the future of Graham Potter. But I also at the same time think for all the people that want Graham Potter and myself as well, I don't know if it's that viable. I really don't think it's that viable with all the losses that we've incurred, and we now have to balance the books. Imagine getting rid of Graham Potter and the level of money we've paid him. So that's going to be a loss, immediate loss as well. The contract that we have to pay him out. And then potentially, of course, bringing in a new manager and the level of money you're going to bring, that you're going to give to that new manager. That's another added expense on top of the loss you're going to make on Graham Potter with paying out his contract. This is why it was ridiculous to put out a 5-year contract at a handsome level at about, 12 million a year. More reasons why it makes me think we're not going to get rid of Graham Potter. It's simply not viable. But at the same time, I guess you're going to have to bite the bullet. If Chelsea Football Club's results keep going south, you're going to have to cut losses with Graham Potter and bring someone else in, because by continuing in that manner, your club cannot sustain getting the revenue that you want. Not being in Europe is going to be very, very detrimental. Further on, this goes on to say there is a strong possibility that Chelsea will not be under UEFA's jurisdiction for FFP next season if Chelsea fail to qualify for any UEFA competition. This is why, even Conference League, take it, because that will mean there's going to be some level of match day revenue coming through. Financial results. Despite the loss in the year and the operating challenges due to the sanctions, the club continues to comply with UEFA and Premier League financial regulations. Yep. For the time being, you do. And this is the statement from the club. Some interesting points here. We're not going to go through everything, but obviously it outlines, the sanctions. Further on goes on to say, despite the restriction placed on the club, the turnover figure increased from 481.3 million to 481.3 million from 434.9 million in the previous years, because obviously the pandemic in the previous season and last season, the fans finally came back. So there was the increase, and potentially hoping this will increase a little bit more this season, because there were sanctions last season for the final couple of months where we missed out on potential revenue. But the higher revenue was offset by increased operating expenses, including match day and non-match day costs that results from resumed operations and increased staff costs. There you go, increased staff costs. So best believe, if we are not in any of the European competitions, there will be some reduction in staff costs. And we've brought in a lot of people as well, man. Vivell, Joe Shields, there's a lot of remuneration that's going to have to be paid out. And some of these, probably not the board level people, but the players, they will get hurt. They will get hurt if we're not making it into the European stages next season. Some of these players will not get enough money. And this is more reasons why Mason Mount and any other contractual, agreements that's going on, potentially they're not going to get that level of money. That's why I'm very surprised that N'Golo Kante, yes, his contract is potentially going to get done, but we're giving him same level of money, which I find it very, very strange. He's on a high, wage. Romelu Lukaku is another problem. Don't be surprised if we probably don't sell Romelu Lukaku, because it's only going to be 2 seasons. He's going to have 3 more seasons left. You don't want to incur another loss. We may look to offload him for another loan, because we can just keep amortizing his expense out. If you sell Romelu Lukaku for, say, 40 million, you're going to end up having a loss, because you haven't been able to amortize his money over the length of his contract. You'd rather probably loan him out again somewhere, wherever, see if you can get 10, 12 million out of him. And if you can keep not paying his wages like the way we did this time around, Inter Milan ended up paying all his wages, and obviously Romelu Lukaku took a pay cut as well. That's helped us out financially. But if we get a good offer for Romelu Lukaku and somewhere around the 60 million range, then maybe Chelsea Football Club will think about getting rid of him. And all the rumors about how we're trying to get more players in the summer, Joao Felix, Romeo Lavia, a striker, it all depends on how much we can sell. It really will depend on how much we can sell. The club invested 118 million in the playing squad during the 2021 financial year, including existing players' contract negotiations. In addition, the club made a profit of player trading 123.2 million. So in 2021, even though we spent 118, we made 123. So we actually made a bit of profit due to the sales of Tammy Abraham, Mark Gehi, Fikayo Tomori, and Kurt Zouma. So we're going to have to look into all of this again in terms of player sales. Interesting news from Kieran Maguire, FFP expert. He says that Chelsea would need to complete their player sales before June 30th so the income can be included in this season's accounts and work out how much they need to bring in to avoid a FFP charge. Last summer, the window opened on June 10th, which is the same this year, would only give Chelsea 20 days to complete the squad clear out. An English team were only allowed to complete domestic transfers for the first 20 days last summer. So look, I mean, this is a known factor. Financial year ends 30th June, so window opens from 10th of June. You got 20 days to try and balance out this season. Try and make sure you don't incur another loss. We already made a loss last season. At the end of this season, there'll be a mad scramble to get rid of some of these players as quickly as possible. Even if you can get, I don't know, some money for Ruben Loftus-Cheek or Conor Gallagher, even Mason Mount, I think. If we're not being able to get that contract extension done, watch this space that he could potentially leave before June 30th, because we need to bring in some hard cash to balance out this season. God knows where the situation is for this season, but I believe we probably, we would have made a lot more revenue. I think we would have made a lot more revenue, considering the sanctions were taken off and people were back into the stadium again. Merchandise sales, lots of new players that have been brought in. I'm pretty sure we would have made a lot of merchandise sales. And there's been some other sponsorships that the new owners have been able to bring through as well. So we'll see what happens there. But sales, ladies and gentlemen, will happen. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you think about all of these financial fair play scenarios that's been floating around. It's not going to be as clear cut next season. It's very, very important. We cannot sustain having the level of season that we had this season again next season. Very important to bounce back. We have to, on a regular basis, be in Champions League. We have to go as deep as possible in the Champions League on a regular basis. We have to be competing for titles. We have to be there and thereabouts for the domestic cups as well. Wins obviously bring you money, but at the same time, it will attract new sponsors as well. Everything is all connected. We do need to redevelop the stadium. It's all about increasing revenue. At the end of the day, however much you hate the situation, or the owners, they're just there for the money. It is a business. Football is a business, and it's not an easy business to make money out of. Wins make the money. Wins. So yeah, and if you want to stay competitive, you have to win to attract the big players. Big players cost a lot of money. And this is probably another reason we're trying to find those gems. Potentially they could turn into superstars, and then maybe we can turn them over for a good amount of profit. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what your thoughts are in regards to all of that for the Chelsea report. the financial fair play, and the implications of it. Last but not least, this is something that I wanted to throw out there. See how you guys feel about this. Breaking: Joao Felix just posted on Instagram. He's going to create a giant group chat for everyone to join, where he'll also be able to interact with people. Lovely guy he is. And the message goes something like this. I'd love to connect with all of you more and thank you for the amazing support. I don't think anybody has ever done that yet. What would you think if I created a giant group chat? You could directly text me and I would actually be able to see everything and interact with all of you every day. If I had to create this giant group chat, would you want to join or not? Just trying to see who would be interested. I mean, lots of different theories that's gone on. I mean, first of all, fantastic initiative from a particular player to do something like this. But why would you open yourself up like that? I mean, people are ruthless. People are very, very ruthless. A lot of people are saying he's probably not going to be the one who's running it. Potentially, it's going to be someone else. But then it kind of defies the purpose, doesn't it? Rival fans will come in and slander you, abuse you, insult you in this group chat. As great as it sounds, and is there a different, alternative? I mean, is there a different sort of motive to this? Like, are you doing this to potentially, I don't know, sell an app or sell something down the track? What is it? What's the reason? So, look, it's great. You're trying to interact, but it kind of makes me think, why would you open yourself up to the rest of the world where you could potentially get abused, insulted, and then, mental health could take a bit of a hit. But at the same time as well, maybe you're not the one who's running it. And also at the same time, what's the motive? Are there other ulterior motives as well? Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what your thoughts are in regards to this massive group chat, giant group chat that Joao Felix is thinking about. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Let me know your thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys have enjoyed this. Smash the like button. If you're here for the first time, subscribe, hit the bell notification to stay in touch with all my content. Until next time. See ya.